Oh, you insert a message at the end, the same one over and over,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, usually.
About all your things that you can be reached on.
Yeah, well, I kind of have been lazy about doing that lately.
Oh, well, I thought that you still did it because Google Plus is no longer a thing.
Oh, it's not?
No. The higher ups at Google have been using it for years,
Uh-huh.
and it's been dead. It is dead.
Oh, okay. This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Levon Baker?
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. So you were saying Google Plus is fully dead, like they pulled the plug on it, or what?
Well, it might still operate, but it's essentially dead. People don't use it.
I know
guess.
people didn't use it. People didn't use it when it was a new thing.
Well, I don't think they're actually I don't know if they're pulling it or if they're just stopping all services to it. No more updates. Or
See,
whatnot.
the only thing that really ever got put on my Google Plus is that it was set to auto populate with links from YouTube that I uploaded. So like when I'd upload the new podcast, those would automatically be found on the Google Plus page. But for the most part, it was too difficult to use. Because it was like, they try to make it kind of like Facebook, but also kind of like the old GeoCities in some way.
I don't know what a GeoCity is.
Do you, Levon?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Okay, so like
I don't know
before
enough about it.
MySpace was a thing, when Yahoo was still the reigning king of the internet, they had a subsection of Yahoo that was called GeoCities. And GeoCities gave you like 5 pages that you could go on and you know, put up your pictures, do this, do that. It was basically like everybody having their own personal little websites. And instead of 1 page like Facebook or MySpace, you got 5. And I think you could do like a premium where you got more. But all these people that would kind of become like the main staple users for like Facebook and MySpace, stuff like that, during my like teen years, GeoCities is what you used.
It was just a little hosting thing for your stuff.
Hosting, but it also had like built-in abilities to add people to your ring. So if you were like friends with somebody, you could put them in what was called your ring. Versus like, you guys are looking at me like this is so old. Like your friend base.
It kind of is.
God. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I forget, you know, my generation was the first one to really use the internet. But we had gone through so many different pioneering stages by the time you guys were old enough to get online that you don't know like half the shit that existed on the internet to begin with.
Hey, not long after we moved out here, we had internet. We could get on there and talk to strangers.
Yeah, but what year?
Oh, shoot. We moved out, I was 98, 97.
Okay, so that's like a good 5 years after we had it because the internet was like invented for mainstream use in 93. And Colton was, no, we didn't have to have it out there because you could just get like Net Zero or AOL or any of that kind of stuff and do the dial-up stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which, God, seems so archaic, but I know, you guys are just young enough to not really get it. The other day, we were at a garage sale, because, you know, part of the resale thing. I do a lot of garage sales. I was at a garage sale with my kids, I should say. And I sent them to the upstairs portion, because it's like an estate sale where they just had everything, you know. So I sent the 3 of them upstairs to go see if there were any electronics, anything I wanted up there. They come back down, and my middle girl tells me that they have phones up there like I used to use when I was a kid, if I can sell those. I'm like, phones? You just mean like landlines? Like a cordless phone? What are you talking about? No, it's, you know, the phones that look like they're pizzas? Like, they look like they're pizza. What? She's like, you know, that you put your finger in and you go, ch-ch-ch, ch-ch. I was like, rotary phones?
Rotary phone, yeah.
Yeah, they have those up there, Dad. How old do you fucking think I am? Yes, people did have rotary phones in their house when I was a kid, but we didn't.
I think people still had those in their houses when we were kids.
Yeah,
but
we had one.
But you had push-button phones as an option.
Right.
Like, she thought these were part of my childhood. They weren't. Like, I was aware of rotary phones. I knew how to use a rotary phone. But we always had a push-button phone in my house.
Do you remember when this came out?
And I don't actually know when rotary phones were invented, but
Brady Bunch had one.
Brady Bunch did, yeah. Yeah, they had like the wall-mounted one too, right? So it was like the fancy rotary phone.
They were classy people.
They were, for an architect, he must have pulled in fucking bank. Of course, back then the cost of living was a whole lot less so too, right?
True. But think about it, he had to support all those kids, too.
He did. I really want to make a heavy metal remake of the Brady Bunch.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
Just to do the theme song is like Cradle of Filth style.
The youngest one in Carl's, except like screaming.
Yeah. It could work because, you think about it, all the Brady Bunch kids did their little band thing. Where they all put on
already done that?
The jumpsuits. I don't know if someone has like a YouTube remake. I want to like legitimately get the rights to the Brady Bunch.
You gotta do that and the
And do
Partridge
it like
Family.
heavy metal. I never had any love for the Partridge Family is a problem though. When I was a kid, I actually watched Brady Bunch. I never watched Partridge Family.
I never watch it either. We watched Brady Bunch.
Yeah, we watched Brady Bunch and Little House on the Prairie. Perry Mason.
Let's get a metal version of that.
Metal version of Little
There
House
is
on
a
the
metal
Prairie.
version of Perry Mason because Ozzy Osbourne does a song about Perry Mason.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone dies of dysentery at the end of every episode.
You probably can't tell what he's saying in it, but he's saying that the whole chorus in is Perry Mason.
Didn't they...
You got to know the song by Ozzy. Is Perry Mason?
Mm-mm.
Yes, you do. It's a radio
Then I
hit.
probably just don't know it by name.
Yeah.
Didn't they explode the entire set on Little House on the Prairie at the end?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, like... I don't know if
I've never
everyone was
actually
angry.
seen the
Everyone was
final
angry at the
episode, though.
studio or something like
No,
that.
I think it was actually an agreement, because I think I read this on Cracked. It was an agreement to where they were using that land for X amount of time, but they had to remove everything at the end of it, and so they just blew up the set rather than...
I thought it was some sort of bad blood thing, and someone was like, well, fuck it, we're gonna blow up the whole thing.
Well, if that happened, I'm going to say, and I have no proof of this or evidence whatsoever, so it's just speculation, Michael Landon did it.
I could see him doing that.
It was either him or it was that old bitchy lady that was always listening to everyone's phone calls. Nancy's mom. The one that was married to the guy that owned the general store.
The nosy lady.
Yeah, and they had the phone bank ran through their
Nellie.
store. Nellie's mom. Yeah.
She was a bitch.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was. She's so mean.
Fucking Nellie's mom.
But anyway, let's get on topic.
You don't want to just talk about Little House on
We
the Prairie?
somehow went from Google Plus to Little House on the Prairie. I don't even know how that happened.
I don't know, Google it.
This is the first time you both ever been on the podcast together.
So it is.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, that's a good thing.
Well, yeah.
It means you guys are just, like, flowing well. So.
Well, there we go. Just get us on Little House on the Prairie, we won't stop.
So, last week's El Bovine Muerte update had the big secret behind why the General wanted Muerte at the facility. Why she's taken at the end of issue number 1. You guys both read it. Go ahead and give me your thoughts.
Go right ahead.
I thought it was hilarious. Like, I had been filled in on little bits and pieces before, but not quite the full story what was going to happen. So as soon as I saw it, I was laughing.
I didn't read the whole. I read the panels, but I didn't. I don't think I started at the beginning when I was.
Fair
reading
enough.
them.
In the beginning of that issue, Bethany Muerte and the mutants are all 5 years in the future. And they're in a future where, like, Mime is his commander.
Yeah.
There's some sort of resistance going on, but as of this posting, you haven't figured out what the resistance is against yet. Or if you figured it out, you haven't told me. But, I haven't let the readers know what the resistance is against. But Bethany and Muerte are seated with future versions of Robert Von Helsing from Chronicles, Von Helsing and David from Ghost Assassin.
Yeah.
And they're kind of giving her a bit of backstory that you may not know.
I didn't quite understand.
Of course, it's through the scope of kind of a little bit of a misconstruing. Like, do you like how... Or wait, no, that hasn't been shown yet. Never mind.
Careful.
I know.
Spoil it.
That'll come up in this week's post. But
I didn't really quite get where it's going.
this was nothing I had in mind to begin with. So, like, where it's going in terms of what? I guess I should ask.
Why is the big reveal greeting cards?
Greeting cards? That's a good question. So I always knew that once I got to about, like, the 5th or 6th issue, I wanted to start actually making some sense out of the nonsensicalness, right? And in issue number 1, the general and the Swedish army just kind of storm in, blow up Lame Mime's facility, take Morte and leave, right? And then Bethany's at the facility, all that. So I'm not saying this is why Bethany was at the facility, but this is why Morte was, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, what would be a good explanation for why he wanted... Obviously, you know, you have like a general, I don't know if he's a U.S. general or not. Paul always kind of drew him like he was a U.S. general. So I just kind of write him like he is. But my initial description for him, or maybe Nick was the first one who drew him. I don't actually remember who drew the general first without going back and looking. But my initial description of him was just kind of a vague, generic Sam Elliott type general, right? And so they make him look like a U.S. general, so nowadays I just kind of write him like that. But I didn't really have any clear purpose in him taking Morte. It was just kind of like the next thing that happened in the story.
Wait, is he the postmaster general?
No, he's not the postmaster general.
Because that would have been funny.
That would be actually very, very funny, and who knows, maybe I'll work that in later. But no, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know, what corporation would need the cow the worst? That needs to like brainwash people into buying their products because they're not selling anymore, right? And I log into Facebook, and Facebook instantly tells me like 18 people that day had birthdays. I was like, perfect. Because all this, like, just being able to wish people a happy birthday, you don't even have to type it out anymore. It gives you the option of just, like, posting it with one click. Like, you don't have to tell them happy birthday. It'll do it for you by just clicking on the button, right? So I was like, all of that has to have taken some sort of bite out of the greeting card industry, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. But in theory, it has. So I was like, you know, if I were the greeting card industry, I might find it beneficial to have a cow that could create cheese that could wipe people's brains.
Now I hope you turn into the postmaster.
And it kind of fit with the nonsensical theme of what El Bovine Muerte has been about all along, you know? Because the big reveal isn't some big, massive conspiracy. It's the greeting card industry, you know? It's not cigarette companies. It's not McDonald's. It's not something that you expect to have, like, is some sort of evil corporation. It's the greeting card industry.
If it's perfect.
Right? That's what I thought.
Random.
Right? It's supposed to be random. That's why I write that title. It's completely randomly. So, Levon has been moving ahead with your idea of having Inspiratu be the running mate for Le Mime in the upcoming bid for the presidential campaign.
That's going to be good.
You want to talk about that for a moment?
On top of the presidential election campaign stuff, I was thinking about it, and I don't know how far you've thought into the promotional stuff. I know we discussed buttons and stickers.
Mm-hmm. T-shirts.
Yeah, so we're at my mom's beach house, and we're like cleaning out this crap that she had in her shed. Uh-huh. And there's one of those little lawn flags that they stick in your yard around town. And I was like, that would actually be pretty cool to have little flags printed with the American flag, but then with Le Mime's face in a circle.
I've actually priced those out already.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just figured I'd throw that out there. But yeah, so I listened to the podcast, and he's like, oh, you don't get to know what, your question was because you didn't answer the phone. I was like, I was asleep. So I'm listening to it. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'll listen to it, and I'm sitting on my mom's couch drawing, using the Wi-Fi to listen to the podcast. I don't remember what the hell I was drawing.
I do want to point out really quickly that we were recording at 7:30 in the evening.
Right.
Hardly our fault that you're such an old person that you're asleep at that time. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, I was passed out like all freaking day that day. And then
we get it. You need a nap. You're very old.
Yeah,
anyway, go on.
I am so old. That's what happens when you're a vampire. But so I'm listening to it, and it gets to that part where you guys started talking about it. And I immediately dropped whatever the project I was working on and started pulling up all the old presidential election posters and started sketching them out on my laptop to make it work. And I just freaking love it. I think it's hilarious.
Like, it'll be a good running mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually came up with a lot more ideas.
Yeah.
It just spiraled.
Yeah. So I think I touched on it with the podcast I did with you, but that was 2 weeks ago we did that, right? Because last week we interviewed Sam Quinton.
No, last week I wasn't on. I was sick. So that would have been 2 weeks ago was Sam.
Oh, no. Okay, so 2 weeks ago we interviewed Sam, but last week was a posting of the Sam Quentin one because the previous 2 weeks were actually just recordings of the Author Day panels.
Oh, okay.
I did at the Hillsborough Public Library. But one of the ideas I came up with is, the female lay mime that Melissa Spandry illustrated as part of the, Ladies of Darkslinger pinups or whatever you want to call them. So, I've always wanted to do propaganda-style posters. I absolutely love the propaganda posters that existed during World War II for the U.S., I haven't studied propaganda posters from other parts of the world, but I'm sure they existed more than just the U.S.,
Oh, they existed everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Still do.
Yeah. But World War II specifically had those really, really great propaganda posters, right? And one of the best, most iconic of all time, of course, is... what is her name? Betty.
With the flexing.
She's flexing and it says, "We can do it."
Yeah.
Okay, I want to parody that using the female version of Lay Mime.
That
And
would be
Melissa
awesome.
doing the artwork for it.
Yeah.
So that one's going to be a poster.
That'd be great.
I would totally buy that.
I don't know if I'm going to sell it. See, some of this stuff, I might just, like I said, I want to actually do it, like, get an actor, get Lay Mime as a, actual human being going to these events and doing his campaign rally.
It would be amazing.
I feel
So I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to sell, but it might be a thing like, because I'm thinking I'm going to set up an actual campaign website for Lay Mime. And some of this stuff, like the posters and t-shirts, that kind of stuff, might be monetized solely through that means. So, you can buy it off the website for that. But instead of making it a flat amount, like $10 for this or whatever, I might do it more like your campaign donation and just let people donate whatever they want to get this item.
I feel like if you had actual people walking around and doing this, like mine would just be everywhere. And Inspiratu would be like slowly walking and then just randomly stop to give a speech to someone and then continue slowly walking like Farnsworth or something.
So, would it be in the legal zone or would it be considered inappropriate to have an actual election ballot with the little box at the table where you could go and have a card that has whatever the two presidents that are running,
See,
and then Lay
you
Mime
mentioned
underneath
two
it?
very different things, legal and inappropriate.
Right.
Inappropriate is where we live.
Well, yeah,
Illegal is something completely different.
I guess more legal, what I mean is that, like, could that be...
There is no legalities against someone
So we can still
writing
make
in.
our own little ballots and have people put them
Yeah,
in the
but we
box.
could easily just do fake ballots. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you
easy
could
enough
put like
to
a
do.
little disclaimer at the bottom.
I'm not actually
Right.
trying
No, I think-
to legitimately usurp the
Right,
election.
but it would be a good way to get people involved, like, hey, if you want to vote for Lay Mime, go
Right.
to booth 34 and...
Yeah, Mickey Mouse has got something like 10% of the popular write-in vote
Yeah.
every year since he came out. And so, I mean, it's not like people are going to get in trouble if they actually do write in a fictitious character.
Right.
If you want to make
But I
yourself-
don't know what actually happens if a fictitious character gets elected.
Well, I mean, there's towns that have mayors that are dogs. Look
That's
at how
true.
I don't know how
That
that's
is true.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted to make yourself look a little better, if you're worried about that looking bad, maybe have like these little cards next to it that are telling that you give to people
It's
when they vote.
not so much that I'd worry about myself looking bad, is I don't want to make too much of a mockery
Well,
of
I
the
mean,
electoral system. But on the other hand, people aren't, president's not decided by popular vote, so...
if you did like an actual ballot sort of thing,
Uh-huh.
and if it was in like a physical location, you're at a con or something, and you
Right.
decide to do it, you wouldn't look as bad if you have like these little cards or something telling people to go register to actually vote.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That
makes-
is true.
That makes you look good.
Yeah, it does. It does. Did you guys ever see the movie Man of the Year with Robin Williams?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a great movie. He's supposed to be kind of like a Jon Stewart-style comedian who starts making this fake bid for the presidency, but actually wins the presidency, despite the fact that he doesn't want to really become president. He just wants the politicians who are in office to do a better job. So, If you've never
Almost
seen
like we ended up with, except he didn't want him to do a better job. I'll edit that bit out. That's a little too political.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We're talking about, something political at the moment, and you're entitled to your opinions. So, I mean, like, if somebody doesn't like it, that's too bad. That's your opinion, But that's an interesting thing to say, because I'm not so positive Trump didn't want to be president. I know when he first got elected, there were a lot of people on both sides, supporters and detractors of his, that were like, this is a guy who didn't actually want to be, elected to that. I don't know about that. The size of his ego, and even if you're one of his supporters, you got to admit the guy's ego is fucking enormous.
Yes.
You would think that his ego would be too big to try to do something like this and think he wouldn't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wanted it.
Yeah.
Makes him feel good.
Just like Mime actually wants to be president.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, I'm sticking with the official campaign phrase, which is, even imaginary clown is better, or even imaginary mime is better than these two ass clowns. Because no matter who runs,
I love it.
No matter who runs, it works. It doesn't matter who is the Democrat and who's a Republican. Unless we become something other than a two-party system, it works.
This story writes itself.
Right? It does. It does. So I've actually figured out. So initially I was just like, okay, I'm going to put the main Bovine Marte story on hold and just kind of focus on like this kind of phony story, right? For a while. But then I actually worked out a way that this could actually fit into the overall Bovine Marte storyline. So it looks like it might actually be part of the canon that Lay Mime's running for president. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm going to, in Lay Mime and the Mini Slingers, have him running for class president.
So when he gets elected...
I didn't say he was getting elected, but
if he gets elected...
Okay, go on.
I would think that it would be a funny idea to have one of the covers for, like, the issue, like... So when the president actually gets elected...
Mm-hmm.
Have an issue that comes out that same time that's like those personality comics where for whatever reason we have a mean Princess Diana,
those shitty ass comics that Blue Water Productions does.
Have someone make a really poorly drawn cover where like it's supposed to be.
So I see you're a bit lost in this, Robert.
I know these.
So
they're bad.
Blue Water is this company that started out doing kind of like third-rate comic heroines, and that was pretty much their primary shtick. It was like 10th Muse and Legend of Isis and all this kind of stuff, which is they had a really, really bad reputation because the guy who owned it was quite fond of finding creative ways to never have to pay a single person who worked for him. At some point, Blue Water got kicked out of Diamond distribution because there were enough complaints against them for not paying artists right. Of course, they state that it was for something completely different, but everybody in the industry knows that's a reason, or anybody who knows who Blue Water is anyway. And somewhere in that time period, and I couldn't tell you where exactly, they started doing these unauthorized biography comics, which I think they've been sued over a few of them, because I know they did one on like J.K. Rowling. And you can do unauthorized biography as long as it doesn't have any false statements in it, but you can't use the IP of another company. And I think they might have, I could be wrong on the reason for the lawsuit, but I think they actually included Harry Potter in one of the images, which is a big no-no. You can't do that, which is weird, that you could create a comic based off someone's life, but you can't put an imaginary character in it, right? But anyway, they do this whole series that are like, female force Michelle Obama, female force Hillary Clinton, White House force Trump, some shit like that. And so they do like all these really, really poorly done biography comics on anybody that they think will sell. And I don't know where the hell they're distributed now, but you still see them popping up in like long boxes at Comic Cons occasionally for like 50 cents and shit like that.
They were advertising them on our gas pumps.
Yeah, it was the wedding, royal wedding, right?
The royal wedding, and it had like 6 different variant covers.
And like a hardcover edition,
yeah,
right?
A hardcover.
A hardcover of like 24-page book.
Someone's buying it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. If you just market it to people who aren't comic fans, you're gonna make some money because there's people who will go out and buy the Time Life special edition of the Royal Wedding, shit like that. So yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad idea to do that. The thing is that in order to do that correctly, I'd have to make it really shitty.
Right.
But it would have to be done in a way that people would know it's intentionally shitty.
Right.
So that's tough to pull off. Like it's actually hard to make yourself seem bad.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do.
Well, actually knowing that you're not that bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like, have you ever played like a fighting game against somebody, or even like pool or something like that, where like you don't want them to know how much better you are than them until they bet something on it.
Well, you're hustling someone.
Yeah, you're hustling somebody.
I've been there.
So it's like it's hard to pretend that you're bad at something when you're not.
I got hustled at pool.
It could be done.
Good time.
It could be done. I have the best luck at just pulling off stupid moves at pool that I actually have no idea what I'm doing. Like when I hit the ball to begin with, all of a sudden, like, just all the colors that I want will go into the holes, and I didn't mean to do it, but I'll just play it off like I did. Like, yeah, that's right, I'm really good at this game when I'm not.
Well, kind of depends on who you're going to play with. Some people, they don't count it if you bounce off 4 different bumpers and go into a random hole.
How the hell can you... Oh, because you got to call your shot.
Because you're playing slop. If you didn't, like, intentionally try to do that, then...
I would just say I intentionally did it.
Yep.
I'd be like,
totally
all those balls are going in all those holes.
Planned it.
So you guys haven't asked me how the Hillsborough author days went yet?
We didn't care.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
I wasn't sure if it was already covered.
No. I played the recordings from the podcasts, but...
Right, and then the next podcast
the next one was an interview with Sam. So we haven't actually discussed anything like that on here yet.
So how did it go?
There were not very many people there.
Maybe we just talked about it off of...
We did talk about it off the air. We talked about it when you came over to help me interview Sam.
Oh, okay.
So it was fun. I had a lot of fun there. It was nice talking to people. But I think... I don't know if all author days are like this or not, because it's the first one I've ever participated in. But I think the biggest difference between it and when they'd have the comic festival there was the lack of focus on one thing that drew people in. This is like, when you see somebody doing comics and there's another guy over here doing poetry, and then this guy's doing sci-fi, graphic novels, and this one's doing like romance prose books. There's no real consistent flow to what anyone's doing, But this is the first time I'd ever done anything like that, and I thought it was fun. I made some cells. I was on 2 panels, which were both, pretty good, I thought. That's what not the last podcast was, but the 2 prior to that. So if you're interested in those, go back and listen. It was a good time, and free is always a great price, and I love the fact that this place feeds us. And we've already been invited back for the comic days that are happening again in 2019. He did tell me that he was switching the time of year that it was happening.
When was it that we went?
When we did it this year, it was in February. In 2019, it's going to be in the summertime.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, he said that he's got to check all the dates of all the other cons to make sure they're not up against anything, but he's hoping to have it in like June, July. I don't like summer shows as much as I do when they're in the other parts of the year. Like Crypticon, we do best at when it happens prior to Memorial Day. And then, like, some of the shows that we've done the worst at have been in the months of June and July.
People want to go outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of options of what to do around that time of year,
Right.
And it's not just comics. You got to think a lot of people who will go to Comic-Con might also be the same people who will go to the gigantic antique show that happens in Portland every year, all kinds of shit like that. So there's like a lot of competition for just everybody's time. There's all the big blockbuster movies that are out. People might want to take their kids to go see, There's a lot of different things going on. So overall, though, the library seemed like it had really good traffic both both events. So I'm sure there are people who just go to the library all the time, no matter what. Levon, you're getting a call from your mom.
Yeah, I know.
Are you going to hang up on your mom?
Till we're done.
Well, we kind of diverted to Levon's mom. I think he should tell a story on the podcast.
About his mom?
No. About urination.
Oh, God.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
You want to hear this story, trust me.
I've already heard it. That's
and I said that he was going to have to tell it on the podcast, so come on.
What a jerk.
All right. The moral of the story is make sure the seat is actually staying up on the toilet. If you think that it's going to fall, hold the damn seat. I was about 3.5, 4 years old, and I'm using the bathroom, and the seat falls down and crushes the no-no parts on my small child body, which then sprays the piss into my mouth. I am screaming at the top of my lungs. My mom runs in, and I am scrubbing my own tongue with a bar of soap, crying. I have never used the bathroom while the toilet seat is standing up, unless I am holding the seat, until I became an adult, of course.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
No.
you still do it.
No, but
I was wondering.
at my mom's house at the beach, the toilet seat still does that. Luckily, I'm too tall for it, so even if it was to fall, there would just be pee all over on the top of the
You're
toilet.
too tall for it until one night when you've had too much to drink.
You know,
Yeah.
I guess it's the same sort of topic. The best sort of toilet seat, you know, they make them now where they fall very slowly.
Right.
Invest.
That is a good point. We should invest this, make it a thing so people will buy it for their kids.
We should. We've never pissed in our own mouths.
We'll just start a foundation, the Levon Baker Don't Piss in Your Mouth Foundation.
Just
Every
trying to
donation
raise
gets
awareness.
Yeah,
Well,
every-
now that he's been brave enough to speak about this traumatic event, maybe other people that have inadvertently pissed in their own mouths will come forward.
No, I don't think so. Most people do this anonymously on the internet.
That's
Yeah.
true. That is true.
on like Whisper.
So,
Yeah.
once again, just so that we're all, aware, Levon Baker, creator of Embarassing, pissed in his own mouth.
Well, now it's out there for tens of listeners.
Exactly.
Right?
That will be
15 people now know beyond us.
that will be in my Blue Water documentary biography comic.
You think they researched well enough
Well,
to actually hit that one?
I don't know.
I just kind of thought they just kind of watched whatever the last 5 news
That's a good
segments were
point,
on you,
yeah.
and then
all
like
you
wrote a
need.
whole script based off that.
They leave out a lot of the actual facts and just kind of put in like,
They
well,
probably
this
do.
stuff might have happened over the course of the 5 years. But
I
we're not gonna
thumbed
share
through
anything
one
from
when
the
I was
5
going
years
through
prior.
the long boxes of stuff to sell at one point in time,
Yeah,
and it was a J.K. Rowling one,
right.
and I was like, I like J.K. Rowling, I'll go through this, and it kind of seemed like it was just this stuff everybody knew about her, like how many times she got rejected by a publisher. The fact that she was typing up the script again and again and again because she couldn't afford copies.
Right.
Which I'll admit, that one doesn't make much sense to me, but, Because I would think ribbon for a typewriter would cost just as much as going and making copies.
No kidding.
But, all that kind of stuff that, like, if you know anything about Harry Potter, you probably already know.
Yeah.
Well, it's just easy to write a little thing about what you already know.
That's true. That is very true.
Pull up the top 10 facts on someone. There you go.
Yeah,
You got it.
I guess you could do that. I don't know, it seems lazy as fuck to me, but... Then
Well,
again,
you already said it's a shitty production.
Right,
so.
and I don't write biographies. So, I guess
yeah.
there's also that to be said, too.
Probably not easy to write a good one.
I wouldn't think so.
Probably uncomfortable to write a good one. Like if you have to interview someone's family. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you were wanting to write a really concise, really, really good one, you would need to interview someone's family and all that, wouldn't you?
I figured all the best do, don't they?
I don't know. I know that there. I guess it's the difference between whether or not you're writing a biography on someone or you're doing stenography work, right? Stenography is what they call it when you're just kind of putting it in order of what the person's telling you.
courts have stenographers.
Yeah, but I think like people who are biographers who are just basically like taking notes as a person talks and then put it all into like order and make it into a cohesive story, that's put in a writerly fashion. I think they're called stenographers as well. I think.
I have no idea.
It's like Marilyn Manson's Straight Outta Hell. He used a biographer, which I would say they're called stenographers, but I guess I could be wrong on that. For that, and I don't know that guy actually. What was that noise?
I think that's my phone.
Oh, it is. I don't think that he actually interviewed anybody beyond Manson for it, but I could be wrong about that.
So he was writing the biography for him.
Yes.
He just dictated.
Yes. And then he put it into, cohesive fashion. And
I think that's just someone that helps you write a biography.
Yeah.
Just to make sure you have your facts lined up straight.
Yeah.
Right.
There's people that know what the story is, but they can't tell it.
Yeah, that would be difficult to do, though, because, when I'm writing, fiction, I can kind of retcon things into, future issues. Like, I didn't know why the hell Morte needed to be taken at the end of issue number 1, El Bovine Morte. But I knew I'd eventually figure it out. And when I did, I figured out a device to tell the audience that without having some dialogue between, Le Mime and Muerte and the general, where the general's like, well, this is why we took your cow, Le Mime. No, I didn't need to do that, because instead, 5 years in the future, I can have David and Robert filling Bethany in on it, Nice, easy, and doesn't seem like it's forced at all. When you're doing a biography, you can't really do that. You gotta go through everything and put it all into this,
And they're
this chapter is about this chapter is about that,
This person probably has a whole list of questions that they're going to ask too, because the person that's actually their life, they're not going to think of everything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've read quite a few biographies though.
I haven't. I have a hard time making it
attempted
through.
to. So the best one I ever read is actually Louis L'Amour's. It's called.
Oh, wait, no, I did make it through a really good one. I'll tell you about it.
I think, if I remember the name of it right, it's Confessions of a Wandering Man, I think is what it's called. And when I started reading it, I was bored at work one day, and someone had left it laying around. I didn't even know it was a biography until I started reading it. But that dude had one of the most interesting lives.
Some biographies are really good. Others, I guess I can't really say that. Some seem really interesting, but others, I don't get it. Why would you want to learn about this person's life?
I think I've only ever read 3 or 4, other than whatever they forced us to read in school. But
oh yeah, that stuff.
I don't remember reading biographies in school.
They had us read a couple.
Uh-huh.
None that I could even tell you who the hell they were about, because they obviously weren't interesting enough. But aside from that, outside, as an adult, I only read the Guar biography.
Okay.
Which was cool. The Bruce Campbell.
And obviously they weren't giving you that in school.
Yeah. So that, Bruce Campbell, and I can't even remember what the other one was that I read. But
Eddie Izzard. That's the one. I listened to it, and it's called, Believe Me, a memoir of love, death, and jazz chickens. So, since I don't know what the actual book it looks like inside, I can't say this for sure. But on the audiobook, every couple minutes, he's going off on a tangent about why this happened in his life. Oh, well, I'm just going to tell you this little bit about it. And he gets so excited about it. And he's really into it. And he wants to tell you about why this specific thing in his life happened. And it's really funny. And I kind of hope that it's not part of the actual written biography, because that just makes it all
Does he narrate the...
Yeah, he does it himself.
Oh, okay.
There's a point when he's talking to whoever's doing the recording, he's like, you can Google this right now, and then we can tell you. And we'll talk, because it's the internet. If you're going to listen to a biography, it's very entertaining.
Okay.
I'd recommend it. You can pick it up from the library.
Long Hard Road Out of Hell was the other one that I read.
So Manson's?
Yeah. I don't know why I was spacing on that one when we were
when I had just literally mentioned
I think that's probably what I know.
Yeah, let's see. I like Sonny Barger's. Stephen King's was pretty good. Sonny Barger's the chief of the Hells Angels. Founder, if you're unaware. I don't know, quite a few that I've liked, but yeah, there are a lot of them that are just really boring too.
It's just tell them about someone's life. If they're not interesting, it's not interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly it too. But yeah, anyway, I totally could do one of those about Mime, but it would all have to be fictionalized.
Right.
And if I were including any pictures in there that are supposed to be him as a kid, I would have to get Pat to draw them, since he's a mini slingers artist, you know?
That would be pretty cool.
How great would that be? It shows him running for class president.
Right? That actually could work really, really well. That could be something that could be handed out as a promo comic, too.
Right. I think that'd be badass.
That would be.
And I could probably actually do a biography in like 8 to 9 pages, 10 pages. I wouldn't need an immense amount of space to do the biography on Mime. Especially since I would want it to just kind of jump around for no apparent reason. So
that's who he is.
Right. He's supposed to have something similar to like ADD.
I feel like there'd be a whole point in his life where, no one really knows what happened right here. It was just some weird shit.
Not even him.
On. Yeah.
You could just put like the C issue 0 or whatever for like the 3 alternate.
I just put like C issue number, one that doesn't even exist yet, like number 25.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, especially if it's jumping to the future. It could be one that's like, this presidential book comes out in the future. So, no spoilers.
Comics used to always have the little asterisks.
Right.
It would say, like, see this issue, see that issue. Nobody ever does that anymore. So if I'm doing a biography book, it would make sense to do those little notations.
I have like 4 panels that just say spoiler alert, and it's just a black box.
See an issue I haven't written yet.
I don't like having to go to other issues like that. There's too many issues in the world.
Yeah, well,
My attention span doesn't last that long.
The world does have too many issues.
Yep.
It makes sense to put that into, like, superhero comics, I think. But, those sort of notations don't really belong in anything that's more adult reading. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it really throws me out of a story if I see that in something that's actually supposed to be aimed at an older readership. But I don't know why they would quit doing them in, like, Spider-Man and the X-Men and stuff like that. Except for the fact that they kind of don't want to admit that any titles existed for those characters prior to the movies coming to existence for some reason.
Yeah.
They always like to restart.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I hear, or I saw on the internet the other day, Chris Evans might be out as Captain America after Avengers 4.
He is.
He quit fully?
I'm pretty sure. I thought I saw something about
Didn't he quit as Captain America before, though?
I don't think so. I think this is him not wanting to. He wants to move on, and I would assume it's the end of his contract as well. So
yeah, I heard the whole thing was because the studio execs wouldn't call him back to negotiate his contract.
I don't know. I'd understand it if he just wanted to get out.
Yeah, he's been the character for a long time.
Who wants to stay doing the same thing forever?
And I liked Avengers 3, but I gotta say it was too fanboyish.
Avengers 3, is that the newest
one?
The
Infinity War, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I finally got around to watching it, and I was watching it with the kids, Levon and Audra, and the kids got pretty much everything that was going on because they've seen all these movies, right? And they haven't had enough life experience yet that, other stuff is crowding their brains for attention. But I could tell Levon was lost and Audra was too, right? Because, they haven't seen both Guardians of the Galaxy movies, all 3 Thor movies, both Avengers movies, all 3 Captain America movies, all 3 Iron Man movies, Spider-Man Homecoming. They've seen, combos of those movies, but not all of them.
Right.
And the you didn't have to watch Ant-Man to see that.
No.
So that was one thing, but even Doctor Strange, you might even been lost with what the Eye of Agamotto was if you hadn't watched the Doctor Strange movie, So, yeah. I don't know, it was a good movie. I don't know that I'd consider it a great movie, though, because I don't think a great movie requires you to have to see 20 other things before you watch it.
Yeah.
I don't go into movies like that thinking this is going to be a good movie. I think this is going to be an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
To me, there's a difference. It
But
doesn't
see,
have to be
that
that
was
good
the
to be
thing is I
entertaining.
don't know if I found it as entertaining as it could have been. If it didn't require so much like, what are they talking about? Like, which Infinity Piece was that movie in? Da-da-da, It required more thinking than what I think a superhero popcorn flick should. Because I didn't want to have to remember 500 things from Guardians of the Galaxy in order to get this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to be. I don't go to these movies to think. I'm going there to be entertained.
Exactly. If I want to think, I'll watch something that's a little bit smarter superhero wise, like the X-Men. The X-Men is smarter than the Avengers. I don't care what you say.
Smarter than that? Okay, I think I could give you that. Smart movie. I don't know
Well,
that.
the series has kind of been jumbled, and they keep like going back and doing this and doing that, But one thing I did absolutely love about Avengers 3 was Peter Dinklage's part.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, I thought that was so awesome that he was a giant dwarf.
Yeah.
I love that part. But yeah, overall, like, I don't know. I think I'm getting burnt out on those.
I read they're trying to, or they did sign James Gunn for Suicide Squad 2.
Yes, it did.
They did sign him.
Yeah, after he got kicked from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. They went ahead and signed him for Suicide Squad 2.
This could be the best move they ever made to make a decent movie.
I'll hand it to James Gunn. After all the stuff that came out about him, I don't like the guy.
That being said, I haven't seen Wonder Woman. So
but Guardians of the Galaxy was really entertaining. But I would never say that he'll be capable of making a movie based off superhero better than the Batman franchise that Christopher Nolan did.
Those were... Is that me? Man, that was loud.
It is.
Those were very good, but I mean more along the lines of like these things where they're trying to bring all these characters out.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Where they're all Suicide Squad in the DC universe. I haven't watched the first movie
I think it's set in its own DC universe.
because Ben Affleck
DC
appears in
movie.
it as Batman, right?
Yeah,
right,
thought
but
he
only for
came
about
in.
5 seconds, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
then I would say it's a DC.
Is it?
I think it's
movie.
supposed to be part of it.
Okay.
I watched it, but I remember it being not that great.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about it.
It
Yeah.
was very meh.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun. But
I
not
tried
fun.
watching
Yeah.
Justice League. Like, I tried watching it 2 times.
The movie just should have been called Deadshot and Harley Quinn. And like Deadshot Harley Quinn with the what are those 2 little dots, and then they put like a little subtitle at the bottom.
Oh.
It's like the Joker fell into a vat of hot topic.
Speaking of Joker, though, before we end the podcast, did you guys see the test images for the Martin Scorsese Joker film?
The little leaked footage thing?
With
Well, it wasn't leaked; it was officially released.
what's his name?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, that little thing where it's like switching between him.
Yeah, and it does like the makeup test back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
I'm excited for it.
I
didn't
am too.
See that. What I saw was
from what I
like,
hear,
walking on
this
set.
is not
Ooh, I didn't see
set.
that.
Okay, the one with him walking in set really doesn't show anything.
Right.
It's basically just a bunch of people running away from the camera, and
Yeah.
it kind of almost seemed like when the Joker robbed the bank in the beginning
Right,
of the
that's
Dark
what
Knight.
I was thinking.
So you say that this is? I haven't paid that much attention to it. This is Scorsese.
Scorsese, yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
it's gonna be
this
good.
is a Martin Scorsese directed film, and it's not, from what I hear, set in the DC universe.
Do you know who the writer is?
Probably Martin Scorsese. I think he writes most of his films,
That's what
doesn't
I
he?
would think.
Yeah, and so I would expect it to clock in at like 3 hours long. We'll state that
That's
right now.
I'll watch it.
Because, it's Martin Scorsese. But I think Joaquin Phoenix is actually a really good choice.
I really
be the
like
Joker.
It. He had that crazy period. But
Weird
it was good.
to see the Joker with such clownish makeup.
right.
Is, this isn't really the Joker makeup. This is more like rodeo clown makeup,
It's a different take on it.
It is, but they've done a different take on him every time they've done something cinematically, with the exception of Jack Nicholson's was just Cesar Romero for the 90s, right?
Yeah, but for a long time, that was the Joker.
Right, until Heath Ledger did it.
Yeah.
And then Jared Leto did it, and everyone's like, I don't want to see the Joker in films anymore.
Yeah.
And,
I like Jared Leto, but that was just so bad.
well, it was like he was front. Okay, I haven't seen the movie. I've just seen, the previews and stuff like that. But it looked to me like Jared Leto cosplaying as Marilyn Manson, cosplaying as the Joker.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
That is a very good combination.
So anyway, though, this one, it looks, it's Martin Scorsese. You had me at that.
Yeah.
So.
You had a lot of people at that.
Yeah.
You had non-comic book fans at that.
Right. And so, like, Joaquin Phoenix, I love that guy. I think he's great. Walk the Line is one of my absolute favorite movies.
I watched Her recently.
Her?
Yeah. Spike Jonze.
Uh-huh.
It's Joaquin Phoenix, sort of a futuristic thing.
Okay.
He falls in love with his AI, voiced by Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, okay. Good?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was really good.
Huh. Never even heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
That's where I
I'll
watch
check it out when I have time. But anyway, I think we should wrap that up for tonight.
You want to end with anything about your stuff?
Well, we talked about Elbow Vine Marte and that kind of stuff, and,
I hope it's the Postmaster General.
You shall have to wait and see. There'll be another Elbow Vine Marte page released on Wednesday, so maybe it'll have some more clues as to what that's all about. But next week, just as a disclaimer, I know we got a tiny bit political in this episode, but we're going to get very political in the next week's episode. We're not going to be talking about Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton or any of that kind of stuff. Or if we do, it'll be, a minor amount and it'll be kind of inadvertent. We will, however, be talking very heavily on the comic industry and the politics surrounding it right now. So it's not something I really wanted to delve into, but now I do, I guess. So if you don't want to hear about the politics of the industry and my take on it, whether you consider my take to be informed or ill-informed, doesn't really matter. If you don't want to hear that, then just skip next week's episode. But
sounds like it could be an extra long episode.
It might be. It's going to be episode number 50. We might have to break it into 2 parts. Because you got to remember, not only am I a publisher and a writer,
and a guy that
but
likes to
I'm
talk.
also a comic reseller. So I hear about all the politics of the industry from a very wide scope of people, which makes me quite a bit different than any other comic creator out there.
I think you have to split it in 2, because we're going to go on for a while about just, hey, this is number 50. And
yeah, exactly. So anyway, join us next week, unless you hate politics in the comic industry. Then skip it. I'm Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
Levon Baker.
Thank you for listening.
Check your toilets.